Hello. Earlier we got a new post on the Overwatch blog giving us a take on hero balance for Overwatch Season 2 Invasion. And while this is just a preview, we don't actually have concrete numbers and what is going to change yet, I do kind of want to start taking this channel a little bit more seriously and covering more topics, and unfortunately that means that you have to be the first to do things to really get noticed. So I'm not allowed the luxury of waiting for actual numbers before talking about these changes, and in the future for news videos like this, I'm just going to talk about it whenever it pertains to balance in particular, usually because I am a competitive player. I play ranked, so balance is something I have strong opinions about, and I just think it's fun to discuss all the different changes that could be made. So the first thing to talk about is in the blog post they said that they're going to make the new hero overpowered. More specifically, they said it's not our intent to release a hero that's way overpowered, but we'd prefer that people play her because she brings value, not just because she's new. So yeah, we're gonna have Overwatch power creep at least at the start, and then they're going to try and rein her in if necessary. It seems like they just don't want another LifeWeaver situation where new heroes very underwhelming, but people play them anyways just because they're new, and then people get very annoyed at the new hero. They'd rather the new hero be broken and effective, and then rein them in afterwards, rather than a lot of people be playing a character that's just a massive bane for your team. So the first real big balance change is a change to how armor works. They're changing armor so that now, instead of being multiplicative with how it stacks with other forms of damage reduction, it will now be additive, and it will respect the cap of 50% damage resistance. So if you don't know what this means, basically before, armor would give you a 30% damage resistance if you had it, but as a failsafe, they added a cap of 50% damage resistance so that it couldn't get too out of hand. This is mainly important with Nano Boost, as Nano Boost gives a 50% damage resistance. So if a tank gets nanoed and they have armor, they're not going to have 80% damage resistance, they're only going to have the 50%. However, before, the damage resistance from armor would stack multiplicatively with damage reduction from abilities, like taking Ramatra's block for an example. Ramatra's block reduced damage taken by 75%. If Ramatra had armor, then after the damage gets reduced by 75%, it would be reduced again by 30% due to the armor. However, now they're making it so that the damage reduction stacks additively, but still respects the cap of 50%. So in Ramatra's case, if he has armor and he's blocking, it's now only going to reduce damage taken by 75%. The same is true with Orisa and Fortify. Those are the two main heroes that are going to be impacted by this change, and it honestly isn't as big as people think it is. Using Ramatra as an example again, before the change, if Ramatra were to be blocking and he had armor, it would reduce the damage he takes by 82.5%, and now it will only reduce damage taken by 75%. So he only loses 7.5% of his damage reduction. It's not going to be a super big or noticeable change. It's just going to kind of rein in these heroes that could sometimes feel like they're completely invulnerable if they are using these abilities, especially if they're being hard-pocketed as well. Now, going into the balance changes, we don't have all of them, of course, and we don't have numbers, but I have seen people saying on Twitter, just floating around, that at least half of the roster is going to be getting some sort of buffs or nerfs or just quality of life changes. So the first one to talk about is Cassidy. So Cassidy's magnetic grenade is getting a 1.5 second maximum travel time, which I think is fair. I don't think it's super impactful, just because while it is stupid that he could throw his magnetic grenade halfway across the map, usually if he stuck someone like that, it would not result in a kill just because the target was so far away. So it's not going to be a super massive nerf. A lot of the strength of this ability came from using it on someone who was in close range of you, and in exchange, Cassidy will be getting another health buff and also see some changes to his damage fall off. No idea if it's a buff or a nerf, but assuming the damage fall off change is a buff, I'm pretty sure Cassidy is going to be in a much better spot than he was in the previous season, just because health buffs are pretty massive for a lot of characters, especially characters that have 200 health. 200 health is a big breakpoint for a lot of forms of damage in the game. There are a lot of projectiles that deal either 70 or 75 damage. So going from 200 health, which would be getting 3 tapped by projectiles like that, to 225 would mean that now you get 4 tapped by those projectiles. So any projectile in that range that does 75 or 70 damage, it'll now take an entire extra bullet in order to confirm the kill on a hero that has 225 health. Next, for the most useless change of the season, we have Torbjorn. They kind of nerfed the hell out of his turret previously, and I feel like the changes to his turret damage was mostly fine because the turret still does its job at dissuading flankers and making it harder for them to do their job without first taking care of the turret, which just forces them to waste time doing that. However, it was a bit of a big nerf for the most part, so they are going to be increasing his damage output by giving him a faster fire rate. And then for some reason they've decided to speed up his weapon swap, and in their own words, so that he's more effective at keeping his turret up. And this is where you lose me, because you never hammer your turret as Torb. Torb is so much better than his turret is, you should almost never waste time by manually hammering it. Especially since they just kind of nerfed its damage output by 30%. His turret is especially not as good as Torbjorn himself is. It's almost always better to just let the turret die while you can continue applying pressure with your primary fire. And the way that Torbjorn's turret is designed and how it works kind of dissuades him from ever hammering it at all. Because you may think, oh, between fights you could hammer it to restore its health if it got a little bit damaged. And it's like, yeah, but also if the turret doesn't suit someone for like a few seconds, you can just place down a new one and have it build itself instantly, and the new one will have full health. There's almost never a reason to manually repair your turret because you can just throw down a new one. So yeah, change that just happens but makes absolutely no sense. Next up on the chopping block is Soldier 76, who is getting a nerf to his damage output. They are nerfing the damage on Helix Rocket and slightly increasing the cost of his ultimate, which is honestly very fair. I don't think Soldier 76 was that bad before the buffs, but I think the buff was a bit too much for Helix Rocket in particular. It was already a very strong projectile on a pretty low cooldown. Giving it the extra damage just felt like overkill, and I think that he'll still be in a very good position even after the nerf. And then the next hero they're giving us the early look at the changes for is Orisa, who they said her Fortify ability will now grant 125 bonus health, and her damage falloff will be slightly extended. This is the one change that it's the biggest problem that we don't know the exact wording of what they mean, because they say Fortify will now grant 125 bonus health, not over health. And this makes it seem like now Fortify will actually increase Orisa's maximum health for the duration of it, whereas before it would just give you over health, which once it damaged, it was just gone. And getting additional maximum health during the ability is much better than over health, since it just lets her maintain her bulk and be healed back up, rather than just having the additional bulk be deleted after a couple of seconds of the ability. And then of course, no idea exactly how strong the fall off change will be, but it'll definitely make her better. But she was already kind of one of the worst performing tanks in the entire game, with the exception of course, matchups where she's actually a decent counter to the enemy tank. Then lastly, we have my favorite role, supports. LifeWeaver is getting buffed again, and they're still just refusing to make the one change that would fix his entire kit, which is letting him charge a heal while he's using his damage. Instead, they've decided to make his ultimate better, which I think is good. His ultimate was kind of bad for a lot of reasons, but now they're giving it over health for some reason. So the specific change will be part of Tree of Life's healing will now be converted into over health, up to a maximum of 100 health per player. So basically Tree is now like Rally, except probably even better than Rally was, because the Tree has 1200 health and is much harder to kill than a Brigitte is. And the thing with over health is also that 200 health is kind of a breakpoint area. As soon as you get to 225, you get to the point where stuff like Cassidy, Honse and his storm arrows, Ass's primary fire, all of these will take an extra bullet to kill people. And then going further at 250 health, you get to the point where stuff like 2 Pharah direct hits won't kill you anymore. 2 Honse body shots fully charged will not kill you anymore. So over health is very good, and depending on exactly how much over health the tree provides, it could end up being an incredibly strong ultimate. Its biggest weakness before was that it just didn't do enough, because how it worked was that every 1.75 seconds, the tree would give 75 health, and it would only give 75 health as a burst whenever it hit that time limit. And the main problem with that is that Overwatch is a game that has a lot of damage. A lot of DPS heroes are very easily able to kill someone from full health in 1.75 seconds. So a lot of the times the tree isn't even worth getting rid of, just because you can just kill someone in the same time period between the heals. When I played 10 hours of LifeWeaver in Grandmaster games, which is still a video I'm trying to get edited, but I honestly found the best use of LifeWeaver's ult was for the initial burst of healing that it provides when you place it, because when you first place down the tree, it instantly heals everybody in range for 150 health. And because you can actually control when that healing occurs, it was usually better to just save the tree and use that in the middle of a fight, rather than place the tree down before a fight happens. Since if you place it down before a fight happens, you're just at the mercy of whatever happens to be going on whenever the tree pulses and gives out its 75 health. Because sometimes the person might just be barely out of range for that half a second and just get nothing out of the tree. Or sometimes they might just suddenly take a lot of damage immediately after the pulse happens. But at least if you throw it down when people need the health, you control that 150 burst. So with overhealth, I think that it makes it a lot better, because now there's no longer a problem with if someone's at full health and a burst goes out, they're still at least going to get some overhealth. It's not like the tree will do nothing if they're at full health and then is basically useless for the next 1.75 seconds before it gives out another one. Oh yeah, in addition, he's also getting more survivability because they're converting some of his health into shields, and how shields work is that if you don't take damage for 3 seconds, you will start to regenerate that health, and this of course stacks with the support passive that supports already have, so basically outside of combat, he'll be able to regenerate his health very quickly, and they also increase the amount of healing that his rejuvenating dash gives himself. The next change they're making is to Kiriko's Protection Suzu, and they say it will heal slightly less, but when it cleanses a negative effect, it will do an additional burst of healing. No idea what this means, but I'm assuming that it means that if you use it on someone who doesn't have any negative status effect, it'll heal less than it did before, and if you use it on someone who does have a negative status effect, then it will heal slightly more than before. And they're also removing the knockback that Suzu has. However, in this case, I feel like there are a few more changes than just this, because the comment that they give says, "We'd like this ability to feel more pointed. We don't want players to feel like they have to hold it, and would like to reward them for using it situationally." And with just these two changes, it really doesn't feel like they are fulfilling that comment. So it'll be interesting to see if that's really all the changes that Suzu is getting, or if they're also going to like reduce the duration of the invulnerability and also reduce the cooldown on it so that it's not as strong when you use it, but you can use it a lot more often. That feels like something that would fulfill the comments that they gave. Next up, we have changes to Mercy, but I kind of want to talk about these a bit more in detail because I have some very strong opinions on Mercy. So instead, we'll go into the final section, which is just other notable mentions, which is they don't even tell you what it is. All they said is Sombra has some small changes, and in Season 7 she gets a larger rework. A Ramatra and Doomfist block will now reduce stuck damage. Bastion is going to be getting some changes, in particular to his tactical grenade, and that's it. Now going on to Mercy, what they're doing is they're going to be reducing Mercy's damage boost. They're finally nerfing damage boost, and they're going to be reducing it from a 30% damage boost to a 25% damage boost. Now here's the thing with Mercy and damage boost. I feel like a lot of people that complain about damage boost and think that's overpowered are wrong, and the problem with this stems back to when I talked about Cassidy getting the health buff. Going from 200 to 225 health is a very important breakpoint because there's a lot of sources of damage that will 3-tap you at 200 health, but 4-tap you at 225. And that's kind of the problem with damage boost. A lot of heroes in Overwatch have high damage projectiles or hit scan, whatever, that have a low fire rate. And the thing is that in a 1v1 situation, if you were to take Cassidy and put him against Cassidy. One Cassidy is pocketed by damage boosting Mercy. The other one does not have a damage boosting Mercy. These two Cassidys are on an equal playing field because the Mercy damage boost does not actually give the Cassidy being damage boosted a new damage breakpoint. It will still take 3 bullets for the damage boosted Cassidy to kill the non-damage boosted Cassidy. So many heroes in the game actually do not get a faster time to kill when they have a damage boost. And that's why I don't think the problem is as much the damage boost, rather it is the healing from the Mercy, because while Mercy's damage boost doesn't give you a faster time to kill on any other hero in the game that has 200 health for a lot of DPS heroes in the game, the thing is that being healed almost at all, even the most minor amount, will make it take an extra bullet for the enemy to kill you. And that's what makes the difference in a lot of these duels where one hero has a Mercy pocket and the other one does not, is not that the one hero has damage boost, it's that the other hero has a Mercy pocket that is then going to swap to healing, and now it's going to actually take you a full extra bullet, or potentially more if you're missing shots, in order to kill them. And again, it's not like I'm against them nerfing damage boost. I'm not a Mercy player. I just play basically all supports in the game. If Mercy's broken, then I'm forced to play Mercy. That's just the reality of it, being a support player that just plays most every hero. But for so many heroes in the game, the strength of a Mercy pocket does not come from the damage boost. It comes from the fact that the Mercy is only taking care of the needs of that one DPS hero. The moment they start taking damage, they can swap over to the heal boost and start healing them back up to full. And that's what makes these duels feel very unwinnable. The only heroes that get a faster time to kill with a Mercy pocket are heroes that have a very fast fire rate, such as Soldier 76, which I feel like that's part of the reason why Soldier 76 has felt so oppressive. It's not just because they gave him a buff, but they gave him a buff and now people are also picking him more and then Mercy pocketing him, and he's one of the few heroes that gets a lot of mileage out of a Mercy pocket, because due to his fast fire rate, he actually does get a faster time to kill, whereas characters like Ass, Cassidy, Honse do not, in most situations. Tracer and Widowmaker are two heroes that come to mind in particular that do get screwed over by a Cassidy with a damage boost. But for the most part, 200 HP heroes do not get nearly as screwed over as other ones do. And yeah, that is it for the hero balance preview, but there is one more change that I don't even know if we're getting, but I haven't seen anyone talk about, and that is a change to Winston. Now, in an earlier video, Blizzard showed off the hero mastery missions for a couple of the characters, and one hero they showed it for was Winston. And Winston inexplicably just had a lot of changes to his abilities during that presentation. Again, no mention of it, if it was just something they were trying out, or if it's actually a change that is coming with Season 6, or maybe it's just something for PvE, who knows. But in the presentation, they showed footage of someone doing the Winston Hero Mastery mission. The first thing to notice is that his right click now chained to nearby enemies, and judging by the damage values, the chained lightning seems to have dealt half the damage that the initial hit of the lightning blast did. The damage numbers also seemed pretty low, so it seems like they may have actually nerfed the damage on his right click as well. But again, no idea. This is just some random footage that they left these changes in for some reason. And the other big change was to leap. Now in this footage, whenever Winston jumped, there was a little bar similar to Pharah's flight gauge that would fill up while he's in the air. I think what it could be is it could be some kind of scaling for the damage that he does when he lands. When Winston lands on someone after jumping, he deals 50 damage at the center point of where he lands, that then decreases depending on how far someone is from where he landed. So this could maybe be some kind of nerf to his jump damage, so that the longer he's in the air, the more damage that he deals when he lands. Again, no idea if these are real changes or not, but I figured it would be something interesting to talk about because I haven't seen anyone else mention them really anywhere. It's not something I've seen a lot of. I almost thought I hallucinated them. No idea if they're an active change or something they left in by mistake, but yeah. I'll cover these changes again in more details once we get the actual patch notes, and I can maybe see if we can get a look into what the meta might look like in Season 6. But yeah, until next time, see ya.